p.m. Oh, I don't have my script ready. Do I have a
Just
separate
say
script?
anything you want. Anything you want.
So this is the BOC meeting. I will call roll of those who are voting members this evening. Lynn?
Here.
Sherry?
Here.
Jenny?
Yes.
Lakey? And me. All right. This BOC meeting is being recorded but not live streamed. Can I have a motion to approve the agenda?
So moved.
Second.
Thank you. Jenny moved and Lynn seconded. Are there any objections? Okay, unanimous. As far as I know, we did not receive any residents' comments.
Okay.
Consent agenda is the June 3rd minutes. Approved. All right, so discussion and selection of topics to be included in the agenda for the meeting. So let's start at the top with September 9th, 2021.
We had discussed in our chair, vice chair, president meeting about adding to the consent agenda, the advisory committee.
Charters.
Yep.
Yep. And
Yeah.
also, in addition to that consent agenda, was the 2/3 policy down to 50% of the cash reserves that we never officially reapproved. So you may recall, when we initially we voted on 2/3, and then we determined that we could not have 2/3. So we moved it, we changed it to 50, or to majority, but we never officially reapproved the policy. So does anybody have an objection to putting that on consent agenda, since we've essentially accepted
It's
it?
for tonight.
Not for tonight, for the September 9th board meeting.
Okay.
And can I ask a question?
That's the work session.
Yeah, that's right. Don't we do it?
Oh, we
14th?
can't put things on the consent agenda for a work session?
Well, I kind of.
Okay.
I put it on for the.
Was that your point, Janet? Thank you.
Yeah, I put it on for the 23rd.
Excellent.
because I
Yeah,
didn't
that
think we could
works.
vote on the 9th.
Thank you.
Am I wrong, or?
No, you're not wrong.
Okay.
Percent.
So-
And can I just ask a
Yes.
point of information?
Uh-huh.
The advisory committees, we were not going to have the discussion about them, about the role of the advisory committees?
That's a separate conversation. This is just specifically for the charters themselves, which in the past we have discussed only when there were changes to them.
Okay. So this is sort of a blanket approval of all of the charters that currently exist?
Correct. The ones that we received back in July, and we had their presentations at that point.
Okay, because I was not under the impression that we had to annually review them or do anything with them.
They change them every year. Their goals are changed. Andy and then Jan.
Don't you mean their charges, not
Yes.
their charters?
Oh,
They're charges, correct.
Sorry.
Charges. Okay, good. That makes a lot more sense.
It's what they gave
Okay.
us in July.
Stuff they
Their
gave us in July.
charges for the following year are what we
Thank you.
Okay.
usually
yes.
approve.
Yes, yes, yes.
We usually approve, or unless somebody's got a problem, we pull that committee off and approve all the others as consent and just deal with that committee that someone may have a concern about and want to change it or question the charge or whatever. Otherwise, they all go together.
Was the information that we got, was that related at all to, we were going to look at the advisory committees to see again how we could diversify them, and make them more relevant?
Different
No.
subject.
Okay.
Yeah, separate.
Okay.
So,
Janet.
I'm sorry, can you clarify the other item on the consent agenda? It's
2/3.
exactly, what are we approving?
The one about the cash reserves policy?
I think I could help with that.
Yeah.
You can- oh, okay, all right.
Mhm. But that's on the 23rd agenda, right?
It is. I'm sorry, I'm having trouble finding the agendas now, which I have all of it. Oh, actually, I have printed copies here. I don't know why I'm doing it. Because I'm tired and I'm going on vacation.
Yay.
Someday.
But not tonight.
Someday, I'm going to actually get a vacation. All right,
Go for it.
apologies. All right, so currently, as you can see on the agenda, we have approximately 95 minutes remaining. One of the potential topics for discussion was the presentation on the findings and recommendations from the Howard County Housing Opportunities Master Plan.
And just as a quick context, we were contacted, that's a plan that the county somewhat recently completed, and we were contacted and asked they could make a presentation of the final plan. And we did coordinate that the director of that department is available that night, so
Can you
that's why I'm
define
suggesting.
final?
So my understanding from her, from a brief conversation, is that they did a study of what the housing opportunities are. So this isn't just affordable housing, but it has a big focus on affordable and workforce housing across Howard County. And they're trying to make sure that people have accurate information about what the findings are. So it really is a presentation of the findings and wanting to inform the board. So it sounded like something based on board conversation that seemed relevant information.
Yeah, so that's separate from the general plan?
Correct,
Okay.
completely separate, completely separate. The name of it is Howard County Housing Opportunities Master Plan. The Housing Department has done this one.
Okay. Ginny?
Is this the one that Calvin Ball appointed co-chairs? Bill McCormick is one of them. Is this what you're talking about? Or is this the consultant's plan recommendation during the general plan of the housing study that we all heard when we were meeting with our consultants and they brought in the housing consultant? Do you know, is this the Bill McCormick, and I can't think of the other lady that was co-chair of it? Because they're really quite different.
So I'm not sure of the name Bill McCormick. I can tell you there is a separate effort going on that the Maryland Association of Nonprofits is leading because we were asked to be in a focus group around affordable housing. It is not that effort, which is completely separate. So I don't know if their consultant talked to the Newtown Vision Plan consultant. I don't know the answer to that. Is that what you were just saying?
Yeah, I was really wanting to know which plan, because if it's one that leans one way, I was just wondering if it wouldn't be beneficial to the board to hear that, but also get to hear the other. And I tried checking with Bill today, but I actually couldn't get a hold of him by email or phone, which is unusual. So I'll keep checking with him to see if this is, I can't think of her name, the housing, Camino.
Yeah, Kelly Camino is who contacted us to
Is
make the
the
presentation.
head of housing for
For the county.
Calvin, right?
Yes.
But I just don't know which it is
Okay.
and whether, so that was my only question.
Okay.
I think it's a great idea, it's just whether it's sufficient or we need to do both and kind of split the time up a little bit.
So that's why we checked the date with her to see if she could do it. It's a suggestion. So.
Sherry and then Lynn.
Yeah, there are so many different groups working on this right now, have been involved in this, that one of the things we might want to think about when we had originally talked about doing a forum of some kind, this topic would be something that could perhaps bring in lots of different groups around this. If we go with one presentation, then I think it would be a good idea if we made sure that we invited people from all of these other groups, and not just to have a board meeting, but we've specifically issued invitations to people to attend so that we have perspectives on this. I think that's part of the advocacy part of the strategic plan that, that could be very significant here.
Lynn?
Yeah, the fact that the county approached us with asking to do this presentation, I think is significant. Again, wanting to be able to be better partners with different, the county, Howard Hughes, whatever, different, different parts of the county. I think it would be important to at least accept this, this invitation and have them here. We are, I'm sure, very aware, all of us, we've had so many different presentations over the years from different housing groups. Hear this, then we can decide what to do with it later. Do we want to do our own thing, or do we want to sort of hear from other people? I mean, there's a lot we can do.
I can say in looking at the county's website for the Howard County Housing Opportunities Master Plan, Bill McCormick is listed on the task force, if that is helpful information.
Co-chair.
Okay.
They just list the members, but he's listed.
Unless it's a different.
Okay, so are we good with keeping that on the agenda at 45 minutes?
We have a total of 95 minutes,
Right, so we have,
and this would be a 45 minutes of that 95.
so we have 50 minutes left. Andy, yeah,
I was just gonna suggest that that would be a good time to, have kind of a recap of the Howard County General Plan sessions, which are occurring this week. In case that, in case all the board members can't make it, but at least also would allow us to discuss among ourselves those sessions. And it's very pertinent because they're getting ready to finalize a report. And since it's happening this week, hopefully it'll still be fresh in our memory for discussion on the 9th.
Yeah.
I have further information on that. I just want to, because it does keep changing due to the Delta variant, the consultant has changed the meetings again. So they're starting this week, but they're actually lasting through September 15th. They have added more, they're doing more virtually, and they're trying to provide more opportunity because they were planning to do these in person, and they got a lot of pushback about people willing to attend in person. So I did discuss that with Jessica Bella, our senior planner, today. So if the intent is for staff to provide any report, the meetings won't be done for the consultant to be saying, here's what we heard. It would just be a staff person attending saying, at the session I attended, of which there's half a dozen, here's what I heard. So I just wanted to clarify that I don't know that we would be at a point where we could make a meaningful staff presentation. So I don't know whether we should just push it later because they've extended the meetings, or if your objective is to have the board have the discussion and not have a staff, report.
I think my original idea was to have the board discuss it.
and actually, to me, if you have it before all the sessions are finished, those board members who have not attended
Yeah.
may be inspired to want to attend as well, so. Sherry and then Ginny.
Yeah, my understanding with the virtual sessions is that there will not be new information that's going to be presented. It's basically, I'm due to go to the one tomorrow night. I think it's going to be offering the same information just under different modes.
Yes.
So the feedback mechanism is a survey form that attendees will be filling in. And so that's not going to come back, I would imagine, until several weeks later. But it might be worthwhile to take a look at what that presentation is. I don't know what it's going to be, and I'm on the committee. So, maybe just getting sort of sort of a preview, and I guess, I just want to ask a question about this. Did we ever send the consultant the CA board policy? Did that ever go out?
The position statement?
Yeah.
We sent it to the county when you adopted it.
Okay, did it go to DPZ or did it go to the consultant?
I believe we sent it to DPZ to share with the consultant.
Okay,
I mean, I can clarify, but, I mean, we sent it as feedback for the process. But we
Okay.
sent it to, because the county is running it, not, I mean, the consultant's working for the county. We sent it to the
Okay.
county.
because the last time I talked with him, I didn't get any feedback from him about that, but, things were shifting. So,
I
yeah.
can confirm we sent it. I
Okay,
mean, I was copied on it, we sent
yeah,
it.
okay. All right, great.
Yeah, follow up on Sherry's. Did we CC the county executive and the council members so that they have an idea of what we're thinking in terms of our policy position? And then I have another question.
No, when we approved it, I did not receive feedback that you wanted us to share it with the council.
Okay.
I think if it's board members, you want to share it with the council, or if you want to instruct us to do that, we can, but there was not an instruction at that meeting to share it with
Okay,
council.
yeah, I'm sorry, that's, I personally, as one individual board members, would love to have them see that. Here's the other question, in terms of staff. Jessica impresses me as a very sharp young lady, a lot of background on planning. She's looking at what our policy is, and I would love to have some staff recommendations that says whether there are parts of what's being proposed by the county that agree with our policy, and if there are parts that don't agree with it, I'd love to have staff advice. I mean, to me, staff advice is extremely important. It doesn't mean you always accept it, but it's really important in the decision-making. So I don't want to leave the staff out of it. I really want to hear what she thinks about what's going on. And she's been involved in this a lot, so I don't.
Dick and,
Huh?
are you done?
Yes, thank you. Okay.
Dick and then Andy.
Like, I think it's important to distribute our proposal as widely as possible. We had a preview of what the consultants are going to be presenting, and it appears they have totally ignored all the public input they've gotten. And if you've seen what they're presenting, there's no Columbia in it. There's no Newtown zoning, there's no district, there's no, they're changing our village centers into activity centers. They're proposing a commercial corridor along Snowden River Parkway. They haven't listened to anything we've said, so we do need to go beyond DPZ, and we've got to get this in the hands of the council members and in Calvin's office. Because if it just goes to DPZ, nobody's going to see it.
Andy?
What I was gonna suggest is, I had two parts. I figured on the 9th, the board could talk among themselves about this. And then at our actual September meeting on like the 23rd, staff could come back and say, the county presented this and this is our policy and what, kind of like, how do they mesh and which activity, because one, it gives staff a little more time.
Yeah.
To
Yeah.
kind of, so what I'd like to do, I just said what I'd like to do is for us to discuss it, because I think it's going to be clear in our mind, and Dick's raised some good points, and there's some interesting parts there, that at least we get a discussion going, and then on the 23rd, we get kind of like a staff feedback saying, here's what the county presented, and here's how it kind of fits in or doesn't fit in with what we've been talking about. And then the next step is, well, okay, where should we go from here? What are some ideas or some discussions?
And I was going to point out that our roadmap, based on what we discussed in our priority session at the beginning of the season, did identify, once we created and adopted that position paper, that we as a board identify opportunities to pursue that have the largest impact. So I think it would be important as a board to have that conversation, talk about what our position paper says, what I think, what people are hearing in those sessions. And Dick, if you, for instance, if you see discrepancies between what we're proposing and what they are proposing, then it would be important to identify which are the biggest of those and where, we can't address everything. We want to make sure that we are identifying those things that have the most value for us and that most represent the Columbia community. So,
Yeah.
okay. So that means for the 9th, we include, do we want the rest of the time to go to that, or is there anything else that would be 50 minutes,
15 minutes under
50.
total time for governance would be under there, okay.
Yes.
I imagine there are going to be folks that are going to bring up questions, and I think that's the other really important part of that discussion, is that there may be opinions, but there also may be questions that will lead to that September 23rd, second go-around. And so I think that would be helpful. So maybe we need that full amount of time for both discussion and brainstorming and questioning.
Okay. And then in the September, what is that date?
23rd?
And we can delete the proposed update. That date did not work. I'm sorry, just making the point that since you're talking about the 23rd, we had
Oh, okay.
proposed an update on downtown Columbia, but that date did not work.
Oh.
Is there a new date, or?
I was going to ask if there's interest, I can go back and inquire about another date. It ended up, that is the retirement of the Howard County, excuse me, Community College president.
Oh,
Yep.
right.
Mhm.
Well, I think it'd be a great idea. My 2 cents.
So, yeah, again, the quick context is obviously in my role, I have the combination of trying to understand, stakeholders, large property owners, combined with the environmental concept that has come in for the lakefront development, and there's a meeting on that this week. So the combination of my proposal was an update on the Meriwether District and where things stand, and then what is planned for the lakefront seemed like appropriate content for the board to be up to date on. So Greg Fitchett was open to another date, but when we realized it was that evening, I didn't feel it was appropriate to ask to, that's a significant community event for our board meeting, so.
Yeah. Okay, so I'm going to move on to September 23rd.
Okay.
Do we vote on these individually or it's all together, right?
On the 9th, we didn't approve it.
Do we approve, that's what I'm asking. Do we approve them individually?
No, I think we approved them at the end.
I thought we approved it individually.
I think we approved them at the end
Yeah.
because we may need to switch things around.
Let's get the expert.
Well, the last time we did this, which was on June the 3rd, we approved them individually.
We did, okay.
Oh, we did change them.
We can always change.
Yeah,
They can always
because
be
we were moving stuff around right up to the,
Yeah.
Well, move for approval of the agenda on September
what I'm
9th
wondering
as
is-
proposed, as discussed.
I'm okay with, but I agree that we tend to move
We
things
can always-
around. so.
Interim
Can I get
approval.
one final clarification before we approve?
We can do some.
So we are in agreement on having the speaker come. I just want to confirm that. And then that the general plan update, that will all be board discussion. There's no staff presentation at that point. I did also want to, and perhaps I misunderstood, but when the subcommittee was formed to formulate the position statement, my understanding was if the board was going to move into more advocacy, such as with county council and such, that was really going to be a board action to follow on. So again, as staff, we didn't take that action. So perhaps that would be, and Andy, I don't know if that was your intent, if that was to be part of the discussion as well.
I mean, certainly we could talk about it. The county council will have a whole separate process.
Exactly.
Once I'm not even sure the county council is weighing in truthfully on the current general plan, since they know that they're going to get it.
Would it make sense for the subcommittee to create some guidance for that conversation based on our position? And so what we've not had good luck doing is putting a topic on the agenda that doesn't have structure. So what I'd like to see is some structure. I don't feel capable of creating that structure myself, or I would do it. But I'm wondering, based on our position paper and based on what has happened since and is pending, is it appropriate to go back to the subcommittee and ask for, or is the subcommittee Andy? I don't want to just, because there were, I'm trying to remember who all was part of it.
Dick was on it.
I think, so you guys are. I think all I'm looking for, nothing super elaborate or detailed, but, 5 bullet points, like here are the topics as we're going to hit them, or like here are the areas of concern, or.
I think that's a good point.
I think we want to, because we don't want to just have a free-for-all conversation because those haven't been productive. And so I just want to make sure that.
Andy and I could probably do that.
I'm willing to work on it with Dick.
That would be great, because then that way, keep the conversation focused and, sure.
Yeah. And I think that ultimately, one of the products of this conversation and questions and issues that we bring up is that having testimony, either directed to the Howard County General Plan PAC, which can certainly receive that information, or directed to the consultant, who is very open to receiving this. I'm happy to work as a conduit to get that information to him. And we can brainstorm other things that we can do in terms of testimony. But I think it's important for the community to understand that we are looking at this and then going to do something.
Well, and that's when I'm going back to this roadmap, that's exactly what it's suggesting that we intended to do. But let's make sure then, do you want to include that as part of this conversation? I think, what are the opportunities for this?
I think if the group, if you guys look at it, to make some suggestions about what the deliverables, in effect, would be, so that we know what we're aiming for. And that will, I think, help keep the group focused on, what it is we want as an end product.
And that's exactly, because we want to end up feeling like we have accomplished what we set out to do.
Right, good point.
Can Sherry serve on your committee? Okay, so you want this agenda approved, so we've finished with this one?
I don't know. Well, let's approve it, and then I guess if we have to change it, we can.
Okay, move for approval of the agenda with all the changes that we've discussed.
So Ginny moved.
Which one was this, September 9th?
This is September 9th.
Okay.
All of the governance issues remain as is. The potential topic for discussion of presentation on findings and recommendations from the Howard County Housing Opportunities Master Plan is the first topic at 45 minutes, and then the second topic is the Howard County General Plan discussion and collecting board questions so that we can follow up the second meeting of September with a staff evaluation of our direction, and Dick and Andy will work together.
No, we can.
Obviously, that doesn't have to go on the agenda, but yes.
A question. As you're aware, of course, we have a subcommittee dealing with the Symphony Woods situation. Is that for a public meeting or is that a closed
The
meeting?
initial one will be a closed meeting,
Okay,
and I
so-
expect it'll be after the second meeting.
Yeah, okay, good.
Is there a second for the motion?
I'll second.
Jenny moved and Sherry seconded. Any objections? Okay, unanimous.
One down.
Okay, moving on to September 23rd. This one, we have a couple of easements. We have the discussion of first quarter financial report and statements and the dashboard. We have our typical questions only section. So in this case, proposed new topics. The update on downtown Columbia will not be happening on that date, so that will not be there. But we have 35 minutes. Do you feel like that's enough for a staff presentation on Howard County general plan?
Not with questions,
Okay.
no.
I think we can take time from the questions only section and add it to it, because we
Yeah.
haven't been typically spending 30 minutes on those areas.
Yeah, I think that's,
Unless there ends up being state legislation, that's, to me, the only thing that could potentially blow that up.
That's pretty early. I doubt that that's going to be an issue at that early.
Okay.
I think if Jessica is going to present, she's very focused, and she can go right to what are the areas of agreement, what are the areas of discrepancy, what are some of the issues that we need to look at, design issues, I mean, I think she would do a terrific job with that.
So I would think we need at least 60 minutes to play it safe, including questions and, no? Whatever.
Why don't we start with 45?
Going once? Okay.
Andy?
Can we
I
cut
just-
questions to 20 minutes?
Just had a question on whether, or actually, when the tax 990 will be presented to the board for its approval?
December.
December? Okay, good, thank you.
So Janet, if you cut down on the questions only from 30 minutes to 20,
Yep.
and then add that to the 35, so that would be 45.
And I think we will have additional buffer. Resident speak out, we have at 30 minutes. I don't see anything on here except for potentially that presentation, but even then, that I expect significant resident turnout for.
I agree.
So,
And I
can-
understand also in our process, if we needed to continue, we could have a one-time 15-minute continuation.
Oh, we don't have a limit on it. We as a board can decide what,
Okay.
you know. if
Or
we-
that would bring us up to that 60 if we needed it. Okay. I wouldn't want to go further than that, but that's workable.
No, I
Okay.
mean, yes.
Okay.
So Lakey, you had mentioned departmental updates. How do you want to work those in?
So we've suggested a couple in the mix over these upcoming days. The reality is there's such a focus on the budget in these upcoming meetings. And what hopefully you noticed is for the financial reports and updates, the quarterly, as well as the dashboard, we really wanted to make sure that we're dedicating a reasonable amount of time to that. Obviously, that's really a significant piece of the board's, responsibility is fiscal oversight. So we wanted to make sure we had an opportunity to both present and allow time for questions. So there's a little bit more time there. You'll see a department update for the next one.
Lynn?
Will they all be as long? I mean, we get the open space updates every meeting. They're always very interesting, but, you know, again, they're long.
They're not long, they're 10 minutes.
Well, you know, if we're going to do significant updates for other departments that don't have that kind of access to us, you know, I was just wondering.
Oh, well,
you know,
that's the
what-
plan, replace, it will not be open space each time, it will be a rotation of
Okay.
departments.
Just wanted to clarify that.
Those open space
I love
videos are the
those.
most fun part of the meeting.
I enjoy
I'm gonna miss them.
Have cicadas again.
Is it worth talking about what's happening with realigning departments, or like Michelle's department?
Yeah.
I don't know, or anything like that where there's going to be changes, or,
Yeah, that
don't
would
know.
be interesting,
I'm just trying to think what's,
you know, just to see where we're going or what other things we'll be looking at.
Well, I think that's the point, is relevant information that's going on in those departments, they will share that with the board. Okay, so then, for the September 23rd agenda, the only changes then are for the questions only section, we will allocate 20 minutes, not 30. And in place of the update on downtown Columbia development, we will have a staff presentation on Howard County general plan that compares and contrasts what the plan is with our policy and get staff recommendations for opportunities for us to move forward.
and the time change then,
Yeah, Janet?
45 minutes.
The two additional items under the consent agenda,
Mhm.
the advisory committee.
Oh,
changes,
yes, thank
and the
you.
50% cash reserves policy.
Yep.
And that's a consent calendar, so if any board member, I think we talked about this, really?
Yeah, I'll
has-
send an email
okay.
out ahead of that, just so everyone's aware of those particular items, since they were.
In case they want something different, okay.
Okay, so that takes us up to the full 180 minutes.
Okay.
So that last, oh, wait a second, did we say, we're actually gonna have to cut something else down a little bit, because this was originally 30, we said 45.
We
If you
gained
look
10 minutes.
above, it's 35, yeah. I think that's where she got it.
Yeah.
So if you do the 35, we were suggesting 30 minutes.
Oh, it's 35,
Yeah.
gotcha,
Yes.
okay. That's,
That's the
I
45.
thought I'd seen it.
Yep.
Thank you. All right. Any questions on that agenda? All right, can I have a motion to approve this one?
Move for approval. So
Ginny
September
approves.
23rd
Second.
agenda.
Sherry seconds. Any objections? Unanimous?
Janet, question. I was just going through my calendar today. I noticed in October, we had planned a tentative meeting, an extra meeting.
Right now, we're not planning, well.
Yeah, I
we
just
did
wondered
have
if
a placeholder.
that's dead or whether we,
Right now, as far as I'm concerned, it's dead.
Good, I just
Well,
wanted-
no, I think that was, I believe, originally scheduled for additional budget discussion,
Yeah.
and if we don't feel like we need it, then we won't have it,
good,
obviously.
good. I just wanted to clarify that, so I can erase it.
I saw that too, thank you. Okay, moving on to October 14th. Work session, possible easement requests, so there are a number of those. Possible overview of villages' financial results.
So this is what has been done previously, and staff is recommending that we come and provide what the overview of what happened in, fiscal '21. And what was indicated to me was that when this was put together, it was received by the board as good information and kind of a summary view of all 10 of the villages. And Jackie Tuma is who primarily, presents that information, but other staff are involved in preparing that. So just to be clear what that is.
Lynn?
Yeah, I have a question on the Laurelwood daycare parking. I read what it was about, and are the kinds of easements that they're requesting pretty routine? It sounded like, they were granted 40 years ago, and,
Lynn,
is it
we don't have that
something we need?
information.
Yeah, is this something we need more information about
Well,
before the meeting to even begin to discuss?
This would be the information, because this is a work session,
Right.
and then the vote wouldn't be until the following meeting.
Right.
So this would be presenting that exact information. Yes.
And we have, I just got word today from Open Space, we already have the documents from Lauren Wood, so they are interested in getting this on the agenda for October for discussion. And
Okay.
Thank you. Oh, my.
Better read mine too. Okay, yeah, so I mean, just keep in mind, there's no vote on this one. This is only information.
We may need a lot.
For that one. So I had a question, Lakey, we have committed to giving you a midterm evaluation. So I didn't know if you wanted to present anything on the goals from the beginning of the year, either in October or November. I think the idea was to have that completed by the end of November. So I think it could be either of those meetings, but I wanted to get your input on that.
Sure, if you would like me to present, my leaning would be November, because that would be closer to the 6-month mark.
And I mean, what I would say is if you'd prefer to provide that in a written format and not present at a board meeting, that is fine too. I just wanted to give you the opportunity if you wanted to.
Okay. My leaning would be November.
Okay.
We can
Would
look at it when we get to November 11th.
Would you prefer to do it in a meeting so people can ask questions?
I was
or-
going to say, I can do either way. I'm happy to do it in a meeting. If I think that could be helpful, but if people would prefer just in written format, I can do it that way.
Any preference?
Does anybody have thoughts?
A written format first and then just have it under here as a question if anybody has any.
Could do that, add it to the questions only.
Okay.
Yeah. I was just going to say, I sort of like the idea of a conversation. And, it can be a 10-minute, it can be a short thing, but rather than have questions be thrown, I would just sort of prefer to have it be a conversation. I don't know how other people feel about that.
Actually, yeah, that does sound nice.
You mean a presentation?
Yeah, presentation,
Okay.
that's more conversation between all
Okay,
of us.
okay. Good idea.
Face to face, yeah.
10 minutes?
Yeah.
15 minutes most.
Yeah,
Is
10
that too
minutes, I
brief,
think.
Lakey?
Yeah.
Based on this board's
I was
responses.
going to say, 6 months is a long time. So 10 sounds brief if there's actually going to be interaction.
That's right, I agree with that.
I don't think it needs to be an hour, just for the record.
No.
Again, I don't,
Pressure.
Maybe,
I think we could cut resident speak out down to 15 minutes because,
Yeah.
again, I don't see anything on this agenda that would
Agreed,
suggest, yeah.
Right.
Lynn, and then Dick.
And we may have 2 new board members by then, too. And I don't know how that fits in the mix, but, that's almost something that demands a conversation, because they won't be up to
Good
speed.
point.
Dick and then Andy.
Oh, I'm sorry.
This is a personnel issue. Is this something we want to have in an open meeting?
The goals are public, so obviously our evaluation would never be public.
So this, I'd like.
This is just reporting out like, hey, this is what I said I'd do, this is what I've done so
and this is my progress, right? Yeah, okay.
Okay.
That's what I thought.
No, that sounds good.
Which the public would be really interested in. I mean,
Andy?
The other possibility is to think about doing it at the BOC meeting. the next one, like in October or something. And that way you could set aside like 20, 30 minutes for a conversation and just invite the rest of the board to come. That kind of frees up a little bit of the November meeting, because the November meeting
Is long because it's
Budget.
there's only one meeting, and
It's a good idea.
When is
We
the
wanna
next
talk
BOC
budget.
meeting though?
Yeah. I'm sorry, say that again?
I was trying to remember when the next BOC
Oh,
meeting
I
was.
do not know.
Yes, thank you. November 30th? See, that's after, that's when our
That's a little
reevaluations are
late.
due.
oh, okay.
I mean, yeah.
Yeah. I also had a question, as far as scheduling is concerned, about pre-filed state legislation. I know we always come up against those deadlines when things are first being presented. And we've always had legal counsel who has been, the person to sort of, do that. So is there some way that we can get first of all, find out what those dates are? But Ginny, I'm gonna pick your brain here in terms of what we're looking at. Something jogs for me that it's usually something in October, November.
Well,
That's
you
being
can,
presented.
actually, I think there's somebody else in the Office of Law or General Counsel that can look this up, but there are dates for pre-filing, and there are deadlines on, when a bill is finally got to be filed in the House or in the Senate, and, yeah, you can get all those dates, and when crossing over is a significant date.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
are we looking at
But, I mean,
that
we can get that calendar.
in any of these months here where we need to be on top of?
This is early. This is not a problem. The reason we started this early is if somebody does pre-file a bill and we say, whoa, wait a minute, we want to let other legislators know this is not a good idea. Don't sign on to it or something like that.
Yeah,
Or
Yeah,
it's going to
okay.
your committee, please kill this or something, or take our amendment and pass it. The whole idea is not to be doing what the board did in the past, which is reactive all the time.
Yeah,
I mean, that's going to happen anyway, but, yeah, so this is good timing. You're not going to see much here, though, in September, frankly, and October.
okay, okay.
Yeah, just in terms of who's going to do what, we don't have a general counsel yet. If we do, he or she will be very early into the job in terms of being able to even jump into reviewing the state legislation, if there may or may not be from Maryland even. Is this something we could ask Jessica Beulah to help with?
Oh, that's Lakey.
We have DLA Piper that does this on a regular basis at the state level for us, and my understanding is it's had for some time. What we watch right now inside of our legal staff, and we have our paralegal doing it, is county counsel. But state has always been DLA Piper.
Yeah.
So, I mean, that's not the GC.
Yeah, okay, because Sherry always presented it, so-
Perhaps, but I mean, we're contacted directly by Paul.
Okay,
Yeah.
good. Is that something that we could almost do that, some of
But
that in
that's more
writing?
limiting
I mean,
to
so much of it
anything.
is just what's
If we had something that needed to be shared, we would send that from one of us.
Right.
Is how we would receive it.
I'm glad to hear that we're keeping an eye on the county council. Just a question, has Opal's bill come back to light, or is that just dead? Because
I can't say that it's dead, but it has not come back.
I get a lot of questions about it.
Okay, let's focus on agendas because I want to get out of here sometime today.
I'm sorry.
All right.
Thank for the agenda.
October 14th, as stated, except resident speak out will be 15 minutes. We will have a review, summer outdoor pool season. I love that idea.
So we suggested that just as a summary to actually say here is what actually happened, given where the data of pool usage, the numbers, because we've started looking at it, will close next week. But it really is not drastically different. So we just kind of want to report that closer to real time instead of waiting.
Jenny?
Yeah, I love this idea. We were talking about this before. But when you break down the data, is there a way you can do a line that says on second Sundays, free entrance, what that data is?
Yes.
I think it's going to be low, quite frankly, but, just give us an idea. We're offering this 3 times, I think, during the session. What is it? No, this could be very, very interesting.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, can we add topic?
Do you have suggestions?
of course.
By all means.
Okay, thanks.
Suggest away.
Yeah, I have a suggestion. I don't think it's premature, but that we have maybe 60 minutes for the subcommittee report on Symphony Woods discussion. Assuming, and I'm not going to, assuming that the closed meetings took place and it's okay.
Pretty fast after, though, because the closed meeting is going to be September 23rd.
Right.
It's 2 weeks later.
Well, it's making a lot of assumptions, but this would allow, well, see, what I'm worried about is when you get into November,
Yeah, November.
otherwise you're talking about January.
True.
And this isn't voting, it's a discussion on, assuming it'll be tentative. If the board doesn't like it and doesn't want it,
Okay,
et
but we
cetera.
can't give you 60 minutes.
No.
Well, on the 14th, if we do the review of outdoor pool, we would have 10 minutes left.
Unless, if we cut down resident speak out.
Yeah,
we could
unless
have
you cut
25.
from elsewhere.
25 minutes.
But just to be clear.
I'm sorry. So resident speak out has gone to 15?
Yes.
And the pools have gone to 20?
No, the pools are still 30.
Really? Okay.
So if we have
All right, so how much, 45 you
No,
giving?
25.
25?
Yeah,
25.
better talk fast.
Okay.
And this is what? Can you say the topic again?
It'd be the subcommittee, the CA Board Subcommittee report on Symphony Woods.
Okay.
Which is pretty innocuous.
Sherry and then Lynn.
Yeah, I think you're cutting that really tight. I just don't think that those recommendations are really going to be ready at that time.
Yeah, because essentially you're going to have a week.
Yeah.
You realize that, right?
Yeah,
1
I
week
just,
to get them ready for a meeting.
All right, okay, I'll do it, I'll try for it on the 27th then. Okay. I'm just concerned that November.
And with outdoor pools, I don't know how we can feel comfortable cutting back residents speak out. That's one topic that seems to bring people
Because you're assuming
out.
people read our agendas and actually know what's coming up in our next meeting. Let's be real here.
Just saying, if there's something that'll bring them out, it's outdoor pools and tot lots.
Andy?
Another possibility, I mean, since we have like 10 minutes, 10 or 15 minutes, could we possibly get an update on the conversation? You know, because hopefully by then we'll know a little bit more. Yeah, just so it doesn't kind of slip from our radar.
Which conversation?
The Columbia conversation
Case in point.
Let's talk.
that we're
Let's
running,
talk.
you know, the website we
Tim's
created.
thing, the
and
cards.
Tim and Danica, and
I'm going to pull out a card.
Okay, I got you.
you made my
That-
point.
Okay.
Dave.
Okay.
that's a good
Yeah,
point.
that's a good one. So we'll give that,
I mean, all you need is like 10, 15 minutes.
yeah,
It just-
let's give it
just-
15.
Yeah, just, you know, they can give us a quick update and we might have some questions or that, but it's not, it's in.
So we can bump resident speak up back up to 20.
Whatever. Not that I want to, however,
Back to
just
30.
saying.
Well, I always like when that many people show up because it shows that people are paying attention.
That's good, yes.
Yeah, I think
Unless they're the
that's
same
good.
people.
All right, so it's
Well-
30?
right, so
So
we're back to
Columbia
30.
conversation, no, resident speak out is 20.
Oh, 20. Okay,
Review of the summer pools remains at 30.
okay.
And Columbia conversation, let's talk, 15 minutes.
Ah, okay, good.
Now, are you going to roll in the conversation about the free Sundays into that whole,
That's part of the pool
part of the
conversation.
whole thing? Good.
Okay.
How are we going to be incorporating Blakey, thank you for sending that survey out to the villages. You know, our village is going to take it,
Okay.
and everybody's going to fill it out. When we get those surveys back, how are we going to talk about that? I mean, we will be soliciting, you know, I think some really good advice. When are we going to talk about it in terms of the village's, you know, priorities, our priorities? Those should be good conversations, but we also are going to need to have them really good data from like outdoor pools this summer, how much were they used, what percentages, how we're doing with our other facilities especially, what other things are costing us. And the village is going to have that too if they're going to be commenting.
So as you'll see, the budget is to be discussed in October and November, and we've asked for that feedback by September 15th, and as we indicated, we will summarize it and share everyone back to the board. So that's the process as we outlined,
Right.
I guess a month ago when we presented the process. That's kind of the idea.
Just where's our time for discussion on it with, you know, in meetings and things? How are we integrating that into all of this?
Actually, I was hoping the 21st could be used for that, but it just got killed. For stuff like that.
I mean, we can skip ahead, but 2 sessions we're suggesting be dedicated to the budget discussion
Okay.
when we're prepared with that information.
The 28th.
Well, we do have the 21st. We do have the 21st.
No, I think we lost.
Okay, so if we're going to jump ahead, I do want to make it clear that the 21st was the meeting that was potentially on the agenda if needed. As staff, with the approach of having the 3 scenarios, we will not be ready for that until the 28th.
Okay.
We will not be ready to present that on the 21st. And that is a combination of integrating the feedback that we've asked for, a combination of the level of detail that was requested in the breakdown of program by program, service by service. So we kind of went back, you know, after that July meeting and reconvened both with our individual departments and with finance team. And the 28th is when we'll be prepared to present that, keeping in mind that we obviously submit materials ahead of meetings. So the deadline is actually, you know, ahead of that. So that's the date that we have put on the agenda, a 90-minute, so a very robust time for discussion. 90 minutes is what we asked for the October 28th meeting. And then you'll see an additional 60 on November 11th. So.
Are we done discussing?
Just sort of an aside on that, at our Golf Advisory Committee meeting, Dan Burns sort of shocked the whole golf committee. It was very good. His question was, CA Board's looking at, CA Board wants its facilities to break even. You're losing $1 million a year. What are you going to do about it? What are you going to say? And that was a shocker, and they were not expecting that. I assume he's doing that with some of the other advisory committees. Any of you seen that? But it really is getting, I mean, the golf committee's scared now. They're wondering what's getting closed, you know, what are we changing? And I don't know if that's happening with all the other committees, but it makes the conversation probably a little closer to people's, you know, feelings right now. I think we might get a lot more feedback on it. I'm not sure the golf committee had a clue what to do with it.
Well, hopefully they're generating some thoughts now.
Yeah.
It'll be
Including whether we
interesting.
need 2 golf courses or not.
So is that something that you're suggesting we
Curious
might,
what we're
we
getting.
might meet
Let's approve the 14th if we're done with that one and move on,
Okay.
since we've
So
already
moved,
moved on anyway.
October 14th agenda. Hello?
Ginny moved,
Lynn
Lynn seconded. So agenda is 20-minute resident speak out, summer pools 30 minutes, including a breakout of free Sunday statistics, and Columbia Conversation Let's Talk 15 minutes. Okay. Any objections? Unanimous. I don't know why I'm looking at you guys, you're not even voting. You're just in my line of sight.
With the chorus over here.
Say
All
something.
right.
Yeah.
All right, so we are not scheduling an October 21st meeting at this point,
Could I make a suggestion that'll go over like a bomb?
Sure.
as long as it's not.
But it'd be a very
suggested.
brief suggestion. Yeah, I want to get out of here, too. Susan and some other staff did an absolute, in my opinion, absolutely outstanding job, was it last year, or I don't know, on the town hall meeting. It wasn't, unfortunately, what people expected. That's a communication problem. But what was done was excellent. And I think we need that, really. I call it a reality test on the CA budget. People don't have a reality test. And if Susan could do that again, and what's what, where's the money come from, and I'm not going to get into, you know what reality testing is on the CA budget, how much money we really, really have available to spend on your project or service that you really want. That is really needed to try and get a level playing field. How many will tune in, whether you do breakout sessions after it, where they ask more questions or what. You and I were really always pushing for some sort of a town hall meeting. That apparently didn't go over either, and breakout sessions. But it's to prepare people for something like that. Hey, here's the reality of how much money we got, guys. Here's our expenses, and we have to meet those list of expenses, so this is what's left, and this is where we get our money from. Susan, you guys did a phenomenal job on that, and I think that's needed again. I don't know why we assume people understand the CA budget. They think we've got tons of money and we're wasting it or something.
So as we shared, we have a budget process, and we are going to have 2 points where we're going to have public meetings, as we indicated when Susan presented that in July. We are finalizing those dates, but the targets, as indicated on the process, are November. So we want to first present it to the board on October 28th, and then also coming back to the public in January. We are very close to finalizing those target dates internally, and we'll share those as soon as we do. But we also wanted to make sure we were clear on what we were presenting at the board meetings, because that's part of how the flow of information will work. But our intent, as we shared in July, is there will be 2 interactive public formats around this budget, one with the 3 scenarios and one with whatever the board puts forward as more of a modified 1 scenario. So we will be following up with more detail on that, but since the question was asked, we're following the process that we outlined. We just don't have the final dates yet.
Thank you.
Okay.
All right, October 28th. Possible easement requests, these would be the board votes. So this will be the robust budget conversation of 90 minutes. So basically, there's no time for other topics.
We are asking for a full 90 minutes.
Yeah.
Because this is the 3 scenarios. It's going to be, I'm sure, a lot of questions about all the assumptions that, of course, have to be built in when you're doing that kind of approach. So we are asking for 90 minutes.
I think that's warranted, and I think the whole idea is that we have that now versus in February.
Yes.
Or March or April. Sherry?
Yeah, so maybe I was not understanding the survey the budget survey that's going out to the villages, the feedback from that survey is going to be included in that 90-minute presentation? Is that it?
The feedback from the survey will be shared with the board once we get it and compile it. It will be shared before this meeting. It will help inform what we put forward at this meeting.
Oh, so it'll come before this?
Yes, it's September
Oh.
15th that we asked for that. And again, it's a very simple exercise.
Okay.
Must, should, nice to have, and the overall prioritization. And it was just another way to get village input on what is important.
Okay, so it'll be looking at all of the villages, all of the feedback that you got. And that's something that as representatives, we can take back to our village boards and push it through to the community that way.
Yes.
Got it. Thank you.
And ultimately, when we have a public meeting with the community, we might reference that same information.
Okay.
But it's just layers of information
Yeah.
is really,
Okay,
the
but
way to think
it's just
about
that feedback, making sure that it gets back to the villages in some kind of way. And I'm happy to do that. I just didn't know when. Thank you. Okay.
Okay, can I have a motion to approve the October 28th agenda as
So
written?
moved.
Ginny has moved, Lynn has seconded. Any objections? Unanimous. Okay, moving on to November 11th, which has some discussion around, a little discussion around an easement, and the majority of that is also dedicated to the budget conversation. We could potentially have time for a brief new topic. Very brief.
and so this could be where I am happy to ask again if there's interest in having the presentation from Howard Hughes. It could go here, pending schedule. I'd be happy to ask that question. So that's just one suggestion.
Or do we want to do it? Did we decide that your goals would just be written, or?
Or we can do that. I wasn't clear on kind of where that landed.
Yeah, I think we weren't either.
Okay.
So we have 30 minutes. That would be a good place to,
Yeah, I mean, I personally would rather have Lakey's goals than an
Yeah.
update on the.
Yeah.
I mean, I do want the update on the Columbia waterfront, but in light of the timing.
Yeah.
What is the timing on Greg's presentation in terms of the board?
No, I meant timing for our mid-year evaluation.
Right, no, I know, yeah. What I'm saying is, in terms of Greg's presentation, what is the necessary timing if they're going to be doing something that we need to know, whether we should take a position or not, or, I have no idea. Maybe it was yesterday.
I mean, the project that's going forward is development by right. I mean, obviously, there's components of it that would interface with CA, but it's not the CA board doesn't have any approval in the process. So
done.
it really was meant to be more proactive information when I first suggested it.
Informative about what's happening,
Yes.
why the condos aren't going down next to the Haven, they're going over there because it's swampland, stuff like that.
Right.
Okay, so it's more informative. I'd be interested, when we have this, is there anything in terms of easements that Howard Hughes needs that are ours, and what is the deal? Is there any land swap that might be needed, and what is the deal? That's something I would think the board would be very interested in before it happens. Or actually, if it's an easement thing, the board would have to approve it. I know we don't do anything on zoning, but we certainly would do that, and a land swap we'd have to do. So, if there's something like that, a timely way of knowing about it would be great.
Yeah, no. Very good.
Sure. If that comes forward, yes, you would be informed of it. I mean, we don't know that now. They just put in the environmental concept plan.
Okay, well, I think it could be interesting at some point to hear from them, frankly.
you want to put that into November, Jenny?
Well, that's problem is, there's only 30 minutes, and the CEO thing will take maybe 30 minutes, so.
Yeah, I don't think there's enough time.
Yeah, and that's our only meeting.
Yeah.
I think we quit too early. No, never mind, never mind. Never mind.
The only thing is, I'm thinking with this type of thing, it can move very fast.
Yes.
And get way beyond,
Yeah, obviously, as soon as, if we are notified of a component of an easement or land swap, that changes the conversation and you will be notified. We
Yeah.
have not received that notification to date, so.
yeah.
Well, for instance, I think the hearing tomorrow night has a lot of interest, at least in our village board. I think most of the board's going to it. You know, I don't know what other changes they might want to present, taking the residential to the office building at the lakefront.
Okay, let's
Anyway,
stick to the agendas, please.
You're right.
Well, I mean, I would say this, that if something comes up that requires discussion and/or consideration, we add a half hour on and we just deal with it.
Yeah.
Yep,
Yeah, I agree with that.
absolutely. Second that, okay.
All right, so for now, it's just President, CEO
Yeah.
update
Okay.
Under the 30 minutes.
with, 30 minutes. I think, one thing to keep in mind is that we do have the ability to change agendas.
Yep.
So that these are not carved in stone, and if something
Right.
very important comes up that the board has expressed an interest to have an opinion on, then we can always revisit.
Right, so understanding that, move for approval of the agenda as amended, November 11th agenda.
Do I have a second? Okay, so Ginny moved and Sherry seconded the agenda as stated, with the remaining topic of discussion being president and CEO goal update. Any objections?
Oh, good.
All right, I have a question before. So one of the things I was wondering is, we have talked other years a lot about environmental things, and I've not seen anything environmental on our agendas or topics going forward, and I just wanted to bring that up. I didn't see an opportunity on these agendas, but I just wanted to throw that out there. I don't know if, the Climate Change Committee would like to have some input, or if there's other things, Jeremy, I know, is always working on things, so, but I would like us to keep that in mind as a topic that, we didn't identify that as one of our board priorities per se, but I think in the past, the board has been very interested. So I just wanted to mention that, because I feel like there's been a lot of other things to draw our attention away from that, which is valid, but I just want to make sure we don't lose sight of it altogether. Sherry and then Dick.
Yeah, I completely agree with that. I was thinking about the strategic goals, and so there are some very specific things that we had outlined under the strategic goals and objectives, and getting a sort of a general update along with the presentation, I think, from both Watershed and the Climate Committee. First of all, there's huge amounts of interest among our residents. We also have pending, we never completed the stream policy.
Yes.
We had a presentation,
Didn't do a thing with it.
but we didn't have, and I think that the survey that the climate people are working on is going to be good information for us to look at before we take that up. Now, doing that in January might be a good time. So that's certainly something that we can focus on, try to find an opportune time for that. But I agree with that. I think we have to get back to that. I think that's the third or the fourth goal.
Problem, I'm sorry, I gotta go. The problem with the streams is it may have implications for the budget, depending on how we handle it, So we should be dealing with it sometime sooner rather than later.
Well, but I don't think we can.
We can't, but I don't see it
Yeah,
happening is the problem.
Yeah, well, I think we
I'm
have to
sorry, I
get
gotta
to it. and have the discussion first, and then know what the implications might be.
Yeah, yeah, because it's a great topic, and it just,
Janet, can we add that to the board topics?
Yeah.
Thank you. So that would be an update from the Watershed Advisory Committee and the Climate Committee.
Yeah.
Probably slotted for sometime in January.
And to be clear, you want updates from the committees, not from our staff that
Well,
are watershed and renewable energy.
Staff are the liaisons.
I'm asking.
I don't know.
And I mean, we can discuss it further. I just wanted to, so to your point about department updates, so we just heard an extensive presentation on tot lots from open space. We're reducing these small updates from open space and making a little more time for different departments, right? So communications and marketing. For sport fitness, we thought outdoor pools was a pressing, one. Obviously, we spend a lot of time on the budget in this time of year. And so we were kind of talking internally about what is next, because community services, frankly, is still, a very stretched group, and we're heading into fall and winter, and what all the implications may or may not be with indoor and youth and all of those things. So we're kind of getting through that. So that was really what we were considering would be next in the rotation, was more from open space with more focus on sustainability, and then also coming back around to a little more context on other elements of sport fitness that often are not highlighted. So part of that will come out in the budget process, but that was kind of what we were thinking in terms of, as you alluded to earlier, the rotation. And part of it's just the way these fall out, having a big piece on budget takes up, the majority of the time.
So Sherry, are you saying you would expect staff to present that, or could we
Well, I
have
think
somebody
that-
from the committees
I think it would
themselves?
be important to have the chair, the people who have been preparing these reports, have the chair from the committee and the staff.
Yeah, I mean, because I was thinking the chair of the committee would be the logical choice, but,
Yeah.
okay. Andy?
Let's see now, isn't staff and the climate committee under doing a survey, a climate survey? Why don't we wait until they get that and do that as a presentation and bring in the committee as well as the watershed? And then we have something.
Do we know when that's going to be?
Let me think. There's a consultant that's being used,
Okay.
and I'm trying to remember what the timeline is there.
I mean, let's face it, we're already talking December, January before we get to it. So I mean,
Yeah,
my
we were
thought is-
talking January already.
Yeah. So I
I
mean,
just-
my thought is maybe we can find the time of when they expect that done, and then that, make sure we schedule it so that, and we spend a good chunk of time on it.
Yeah. Both committees have been working to push that out into the community
Yeah.
to get people to participate. Up until now, the participation has not been very high. So that is an issue that these committees are looking at. So I can't give you an absolute date. It's not like January 1st.
Okay,
know
well,
we're
we
gonna-
don't have to decide that tonight because
Yeah.
it's not till the next BOC anyway, but,
I believe I was in the queue.
yes. go ahead.
One of the reasons we haven't been dealing with the environment is because that's not a fire that has to be put out right now. We are doing a great job.
I understand that. I just want
Yeah,
to make sure we
I
don't
just-
cite.
But there is something that we had a very good presentation on, the board has not taken any action on, and I hate to see the thing fall apart, and that's on tot lots. We've not made a decision on what our policy's going to be there, and I think it's got to be someplace in the next few meetings.
What is the process for that, though? I mean, I thought we got a recommendation and they were going to go back and evaluate things. So I didn't think there was board action required at this.
That's what I was gonna say is, I mean, I can double check, but my impression was that we were putting forward the framework that we had recommended that we are kind of starting to use. And the main thing that we were looking for confirmation for was that we are putting a framework of guidelines in, of parameters and options, and that only if it's outside of those would there be a need to come to the board.
Yeah, okay, I didn't think we had action items out of that. Okay. Because we provided general guidance in that meeting that no one was opposed to what they were proposing.
Okay, it was a great presentation. I didn't see any action items resulting from that. And I know it's something that people in our villages would really like to see something happen.
Well, I mean, we're underway with several following those parameters. So just to be clear, there is action ongoing. I think the key was there continues to be a bubbling up of always wanting to do something different. And so we're trying to put a better framework and process together so that it is on a limited basis that it would come to the board instead of it being frequent and always treated as a one-off.
Yeah.
So it doesn't eliminate, obviously, there's still an ability to come to the board if that is really what is desired, but really wanting the process to be better understood by the board, confirmed, but we're underway in that process.
And I imagine that some of this will show up in the budget. You might want to talk to Tim and Danica about just letting the community know that their tot lots are being looked at.
I'm not really sure what you mean by that.
I get a lot of inquiries about tot lots, and it's to some people in the community, that's really important. So
Yes.
a little story that we put out, a little release that says, here are our tot lot plans, or this is what our policy is, or we've had meetings, just to reassure people that we haven't overlooked it.
Okay. I can inquire. I mean, it's a maintenance approach. That's really what we're doing.
PR goes a long way.
So we do PR every time we do construction. We post, we have pictures, we do this on a regular basis.
Good.
Yeah, I mean,
Okay. Did anyone else have any administrative items?
Janet, just one more thing. Suggestion for Lakey, we have the the housing report coming. I know they published a report, so it would be good if they would provide us with a link so that we can send that link as part of the background to the board. I mean, I don't think we have to send the report, because I think it's online. But at least that way the board has a chance, in our background packet to look at the report.
yes, we can do that.
Good, thank you.
Okay, talking points.
The VOC approved the topics for inclusion at September 9th. The VOC added a discussion on the Howard County General Plans sessions to date. The DOC approved the topics for inclusion at the September 23rd board meeting. Consent agenda will have approval of the meeting minutes, and in addition, the advisory committee charges and 50% cash reserves policy. Potential topic for discussion is feedback regarding the Howard County General Plan, with a presentation from staff that compares and contrasts what is being suggested by the county with CA's policies, and will include staff's recommendations for opportunities to move forward. The VOC approve the topics for inclusion at the October 14th, Board of Directors work session. The review of the summer 2021 outdoor pool season will be held, and information regarding the data regarding for entrance to the pools will be included. And then added an update on Columbia Conversation Let's Talk for 15 minutes. There will be no budget work session on October 21st. The BOC approved the topics for inclusion at the October 28th board meeting. Those topics were approved as presented, and the meeting will be devoted to the first discussion of the three options for the FY 2023 budget. The BOC approved the topics for inclusion at the November 11th Board of Directors meeting. Topics for this, potential topics for discussion is actually a single topic: the update on the CEO goals and objectives by the President's CEO.
She's done. She's done.
Point of
Saying she's
information,
done.
I don't think that the backup meeting for the budget is not going to be held. It was not, there were no topics assigned, but I think we're still holding that as a fallback.
If we don't have anything to discuss, then we won't be having.
We don't
a meeting.
know whether we have anything to discuss.
Right. So right now, we
Right
don't
now,
have
we
any.
don't, but we've always held a position as a fallback in case we needed it. Now, if you want to say, well, maybe we need it in December, but we don't need it in October,
We always have the option of adding a meeting if we feel like we need to have conversation.
well, did we have a vote not to have that October meeting?
There's no agenda for it. There was nothing on the agenda.
It was a tentative meeting,
It was a tentative meeting, yeah.
and so it was just a placeholder.
And with staff, not being able to provide anything, it really doesn't make any sense to even try to hold the 21st. I mean, if we need, what you want to do is schedule it later, either in November or December if you want to hold another tentative budget meeting, because it just doesn't, I don't think, make any sense to try to hold any type of discussion, even among us, in October if we're not getting anything until the 28th. Because usually what we have is the budget book to talk about.
Right.
And I think if we're going to schedule, if we think we need another one, I think we really should look at November and December, when we actually have budget information, and then,
Okay.
if that makes sense. I mean, I would
All right,
try to do it.
so then I would make a motion that the October fallback budget date is not necessary at this time, and ask for a vote on that, since it was originally scheduled. I mean, I think the BOC has to say, okay, we don't need that meeting, just take a vote. If we're in agreement, and we're fine.
Susan?
Is there a second?
It was if needed on the budget schedule, so
Right,
it's never been
that's-
scheduled, it was an if necessary, so. I don't recall ever having a vote to not do these,
Well,
and we've
we-
passed on them in other years.
In the past, we've had a schedule, and we've had dates in there.
Right.
Is there something you feel like we're not having a conversation about by not having this meeting? I'm just trying to understand.
All right,
Your
my
concern.
only concern is, so there were 5 tentative meetings. If you're not going to do that meeting, the BOC should just take a vote and get rid of it.
But it doesn't exist yet.
It never did. In my calendar, it's in
All right,
pencil.
I'm not gonna beat this dead horse.
Are you sure?
Yeah, I'll beat somebody else.
Keep your 6 feet, that's all I ask.
Right.
All right. Then let's adjourn at 8:32.
Thank you.